Many thanks for coming on the program. Our airspace is opening up quite significantly. We see a lot of interest from airlines like latest Korean Air coming into this space, but there's a lot more that needs to be done, isn't there?
Well, I think so, but also I think the Kenya government has done quite well, and also the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, Kenya Airports Authority. They've worked very hard to ensure that Kenya grows its hub, and I think that's what's encouraging everybody to come to Kenya for business.
Do we have the airspace even, is it secure enough to meet the challenges of air transport in the future?
Definitely, definitely. When you look at the kind of investment that the government has put into the airspace, especially in KC, Kenya Civil Aviation Authority has invested close to 3.5 billion Kenya shillings to improve on its air navigation services. We are looking at also maybe using another close to 1.5 billion again to improve on other facilities. Kenya Airports Authority has worked very hard. They've building new terminal buildings. The government has undertaken to actually do a new greenfield terminal and also do a second runway at Jomo Kenyatta. And also when you look at the outlying airports, Kisumu is one case whereby a lot of money was spent into Kisumu, and it's now become a first-class kind of airport. And also Malindi, we are looking at also building a whole new airport at Manda in Lamu. So there's a lot of being done to develop and ensure that the airport, the growth of the industry is also safe and sustainable.
Let's talk about our major international airport, Jomo Kenyatta. The amount of traffic it handles is 10 times more than it was built for. How are we dealing with that challenge and trying to anticipate the growth of for air traffic in this country?
I think the Kenya Airports Authority and the government have done very well, because as we stand right now, the terminal building is almost complete. I'm just from the airport. I've seen the roof in it, right. So that's a good thing. The parking area is also being finalized. They're looking at the greenfield project. I think the government has now undertaken that it has to be done, and I think they're projecting to have it maybe first quarter next year, and that's a very good thing. And also the government has undertaken to do a new runway at Jomo Kenyatta.
Because I was going to ask about that. We have one runway. The last time we had an incident on the runway, it was a complete mess.
Yes, those are the disadvantages of having one runway, and I think the government, it's not easy to invest. As you know, government has so many priorities. There's health, there's transport, there's many other things. But I think now they've made a commitment to aviation. They're going to do the new runway, they're going to do the new greenfield, and that is really going to improve Jomo Kenyatta's capacity to attract people.
You are doing a 5-year strategic plan, a master plan of sorts. What are some of the key components, the deliverables even out of this?
I think one of the things is that for a long time we've not been planning for the future. And I think when you look at the whole aviation industry, starting from the government to coming to the regulator, KCA, and also to the operators, I think everybody now understands that without planning you can't move on. And so one of the key things that we're going to see is that there's need to ensure that the hub, which is Jomo Kenyatta, is strong and is capable of handling the kind of capacity that it needs to have, especially when you look at the kind of business growth that is going on in Kenya alone, not even moving out of Kenya.
Yes.
And then also we're looking as Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, we're looking at the safety issues of this. We're seeing a lot of schools, people wanting to put up aviation training institutions, which are going to train a lot of more people. That's also going to mean we're going to have better capacity in the area. We're looking about airports, where Mombasa is going to be refurbished. Like I talked to Malindi also. Lamu is going to be rebuilt. Eldoret, there's plans to do some major refurbishment on the runway and also increase the capacity in terms of cargo. And this is really going to change the whole game in Kenya.
We've been talking about direct flights between Kenya and the US and the resultant business this would bring into the country. But why haven't we gotten there? What needs to be done and why are we not doing it? I
think basically most of the things have been done. I think it's more of a business decision by the airlines in the US. I know some Kenyan airlines may not be looking at going to the US because their core market and their focus is in Africa, Europe, and the Far East.
So are you saying the infrastructure already exists at JKIA to allow direct landings between Kenya and the US?
Yes, it does.
Everything that's required by the US State Department in terms of security is there.
I think the when you make some of these decisions, the other things we may not be privy to for the airline. But I think I know everything is in place, and we're in a very good position. And anybody who would like to fly here would be able to fly.
Still about capacity, one of the reasons why, for instance, the bigger airlines like let's say Emirates cannot fly an A380 into Nairobi is because there's just not facility to handle that size of an aircraft.
Jomo Kenyatta can actually handle an A380. It's just that there's some things which need to be sorted out, some technical things. And that's why, after looking at the cost-benefit analysis, it's better to build a whole new runway which looks at the future.
Yes.
And that, instead of having to do a piecemeal repair on the current runway. So that's what actually I think the government has decided and Kenya Airports Authority has decided. But basically, even for the airport is actually one of the alternates in case of an emergency for A380, which is most of them which are flying to Johannesburg. So that's what I can say here.
So when do we expect this new terminal to be complete finally?
The current one, they're targeting to have it done by February. It should be done. The new one, the green terminal, they're targeting, like I said, first quarter next year. The runway the same way. So hopefully when that terminal comes in, it will increase capacity by almost about 70 to 80%, which will also relieve a lot of things in the airport.
Mutia, asante sana. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Mutia Mwandikwa, Corporate Communications Director at the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, speaking to us about the aviation scene right here in Kenya.